Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm Lisa Nichols, and I'm a transformation coach for women in business. And I really am excited and happy that you're here today because, as many of you know, this is a very transformative technique that I get to walk you through today. And so, the first thing to know is you do need a pen and pencil or a computer where you can type things in because we are actually going to be walking through uh, an actual EFT tapping script. So, okay. And so if you could get that, take a minute and get that while I continue talking. So I'm going to tell you why I'm such a fan of EFT tapping, but first let me just tell you what we're going to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about what EFT tapping is, what it does, what it's good for, a little bit of the history, and then we're going to talk about how to start, where to tap, what to say, how to end, and how to make sure you're getting results. So lots to cover today. So let me just really quickly tell you why I'm such a huge fan. After my separation from my second husband way back in 99, 2000, I realized I couldn't keep doing things the way I was doing them, the way I believed that the world should work, and that I was just miserable and unhappy. And so I started my personal healing journey. And I did a lot of different things over the years. Being part of a spiritual community was a big part of that. But I just really struggled. I struggled with depression, and what I found out later was social anxiety. I also I excelled in many things, but it was always from a standpoint of I never can do enough. I'm not worthy. And so I have to prove my worth constantly. It always came from a sense of lack and self-doubt. I even worked with a business coach at the time. And I often say that poor guy, I was probably his worst client ever because I don't think I did any of the tasks he told me to do because I was just too full of fear and self-doubt. And so I did my personal journey and I was going along and I was getting better. I wasn't as angry. But fast forward to 2018, I was working at a corporate job in San Francisco. And I was miserable. They were miserable, but I was insistent that I was going to keep working there because I wanted to build my retirement account. And I didn't think that I had opportunities to move or to change. And because I just didn't have the self-confidence. So they let me go. And it was like the best thing ever. I mean, I went out and celebrated that night. My husband and I went out and had drinks to celebrate that I got fired. And it was just such a wonderful thing. So the next day, I just decided I was going to become an EFT tapping practitioner. And I had never really been that involved in EFT tapping. I just kind of had done it a few times. So where it came from, why I would do it, I don't know. I just did. It just was this big voice in my head that said, let's do this. So about 6, 7, 8 months later, I was a certified EFT tapping practitioner. And honestly, it like changed the personal healing and the growth. It just went exponential because of my involvement with EFT tapping. It opened me to trying new things, to working with different people. And over 3, 4 years, I grew more and healed more than I had the previous 18, 20 years. It just is such a transformative way to change the way that we think and the things that we believe, which is how we create our worlds. And it's often said in some spiritual circles and just out and about, we co-create our worlds, and we do by what we believe. If we believe that we have to work hard for money, then you're going to work hard for every dime that you make. If you believe that you can only make money to a certain level, because if you made more than that, it would kind of be exceeding your family's expectations and or their set point, like all of a sudden you'd be too big for your britches, that kind of a thing, then you're never going to make more than that money. Or if you do start making more than that money, you will find a way to reduce your income to the level where you're comfortable, where you believe you should be. So there's just any number of beliefs, and especially about ourselves. Like if we hate to be center of attention, we hate people's looking at us, then when it's time to market your own business, it's going to be hard to market your own business. You won't volunteer for it. So there's so many ways that the way that we believe impact our world and how we see the world and what happens to us, even the events. For the longest time, I used to get the worst service at restaurants. I don't know why. I think it's because I just had this assumption that I wasn't going to get good service because people didn't like me. I assumed people automatically didn't like me. And so when I was able to shift that, now I get just normal and even good service. It was so funny. I went to Texas one time and I was telling my sister, I swear to you, every restaurant I go to, I get bad service. And we went to a restaurant and she looks at me, she's like, "You're not kidding." I go, "No, I'm not. I do." Like we can go to a walk up and she'd get her food and 15 minutes later, I'm still waiting for my food. So it was crazy, but I'm so glad that that belief's over. Okay, so EFT tapping started, it came out of another modality called thought field therapy. And another person, Roger Craig, took the thought field therapy and modified it and simplified it and made it into EFT, emotional freedom techniques, back in the 1980s. So it's been around like 40 years. And there are a number of studies that show that it works, and on everything from cortisol reduction and sugar cravings to the elimination or reduction of PTSD symptoms. And it works even on physical issues. If you think of how we hold our emotions in our bodies, and how that can translate into diseases. For example, women with breast cancer, a lot of times you can look back 5 to 7 years and they will have had a heartbreak, a breakup with somebody or a loss of somebody that broke their heart, and that will manifest into breast cancer. So it's fascinating. And I just lost my train of thought because I started thinking about that. Okay, so yes, that's why EFT tapping works on physical issues. And let's see okay. And what it does is it helps to rewire the brain. It helps to dissociate traumatic experiences from the emotional charge that you have. And the example that I give from myself is when I was like 12, I don't know, I was sweeping my grandmother's floor. And my mom looked down at the little pile of dirt that I had, and she's like, "Is that all you got? I could have gotten twice." And this was just this innocuous little thing. My mom probably never remembered it ever again that she said this. But for me, it was devastating. And I would cry for decades whenever I would talk about that situation, because I took it as a 12-year-old as like proof that I never did anything right, that I wasn't competent, that I just wasn't a worthy person. And so after working on that issue a couple of times, like it took, a lot of times I would work on that, and finally I did EFT tapping on it. And I was able to dissociate the feelings of embarrassment and sadness and all of that, and the beliefs that I created around that example from the event itself. So now you can see I don't cry when I talk about it anymore. So the things that when we create our beliefs can be, like I said, these innocuous little kind of paper cut traumas, or they can be the big traumas like abuse or accidents, things like that. And so that's how it kind of works. It just helps to like rewire the limbic system, and it balances the energy in our bodies. What the Chinese call qi and the Japanese call ki. But it's just, as you know, we are energetic systems, and it helps to align the energy of our bodies and our nervous systems. Okay. So before I go any further, does anyone have any questions? Just unmute if you want. Okay. Hi, Megan.
Excuse me for a minute.
Sure. Okay. So what we're going to talk about now is how to start. So, and this is the interactive piece of it. So the first thing for you to do is to think of a situation or a feeling that has continued to bother you. And it can be something like I told you, like something that happened in your past where feelings still come up, like me and my mom saying about my pile of dirt. Or it can be something that's bothering you right now, and you don't necessarily need to know like where it's coming from. So, for example, if you're frustrated with the sales in your business, or if you're having an issue with another person, or someone in your business, this can bring to mind this situation that you're dealing with. And so, does everyone have something in mind that you'd like to work on? Yeah, great. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to do is, and here's a little trick, by the way. So there's a tapping point right here, not on your collarbone. Like this is my collarbone. It's kind of low, but wherever your collarbone is, and just below it is a little soft spot. And that is the collarbone tapping point that will be part of our tapping later. And so sometimes when you're asking questions ahead of time, it can help to tap there. It taps into the thymus gland, which is a master gland in our body. And so thinking about this issue that you want to deal with, you can tap there or you don't have to. You can close your eyes. You don't have to, but take a deep breath and just ask yourself, what do I feel about this situation? And this is, go ahead and write it down or type it or however you're documenting it. I'm going to do it while I'm at it. Might as well take advantage of this time. Okay. So go ahead and ask yourself again, because this is kind of like peeling the onion, like layer by layer. So you can say, okay, let's say if you have a personal situation and you're angry. Okay, so you come up, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and I don't know what to do. So now go ahead. What else? What else is there? And just go a little bit deeper. Now, looking at what you've written, does this remind you of anything? Does it bring up anything for you that's happened in your past? And if not, that's fine. You don't have to. If yes, go ahead and write that down. Does anyone need more time? Okay. So now ask yourself, how do I wish it was different? And write that down. Now, is there anyone who would be willing or would like to share what they've gotten so far? And we can walk through it, and I can ask you more questions, maybe delve deeper into it, and that would be a good example for everyone else. So is anyone willing? Kristen, great. Let me unmute you. Oh, I got to ask to unmute you. So, great.
Okay, so I hope I did it right. But so for me, and I'm actually at my client site, so Annette is one of my customers. So for me, when one of my customers experiences a customer service issue with credit card processing, the first thing that I feel is like I've done something wrong. And it actually goes all the way back to when I was a child and I was scolded by my parents for doing something wrong. And it goes even deeper to feel like I'm going to get punished and the customer is going to take the relationship away. They're going to move the business. And so how I would like that to be different is I actually want to look at that as excited that they brought the issue to my attention, which gives me the opportunity to fix the problem and improve their experience.
Wonderful. Okay. So, and specifically, what kinds of feelings come up? Like fear, embarrassment, pardon?
Shame.
Shame. I'm sorry, the last thing I couldn't hear.
I feel shame.
Okay.
And then I also feel fear and insecurity.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So that is such a wonderful example, Kristen, of exactly how EFT tapping can help in a business situation. That is just couldn't have asked for a better one. So do you remember what you were being scolded for, or do you remember how old you were?
Yes. One situation in particular, I was probably 5 or 6. And it was something that was not even rational. My dad brought my sisters and I into the living room and asked who left the closet door open. And none of us would confess that we left the door open, the closet door, which to me, what's the big deal? And in the end, my dad became more and more enraged trying to find out who did it. So I took responsibility for it. And when I took responsibility for it, I think it was like around a holiday, maybe it was around, I think it was around Halloween when you have Halloween candy. I think that the punishment was I lost my Halloween candy and I got a spanking. But I had not left the closet door open. So I hadn't really done anything wrong, but I wanted the interrogation to stop.
Yeah.
And realistically, with my customers, when there is a service issue, it's because there's some sort of technical glitch or something that needs to be adjusted. It's not that I've done something wrong, but I equate the fact that there's a technical issue that I've done something wrong. So it feels the same as confessing to leaving the closet door open when I had not.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that is perfect. Is there a particular place in your body where you feel the emotions around this?
it's in my stomach.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, so that's a great thing for you to tap on today. And so I'm going to keep walking through the process. So the way that we start EFT tapping is after we get right our list of feelings and how we feel and what comes up for us, the next thing to do is come up with a intensity level of your feelings. So on a scale of 0, with 0 being no intensity, to 10, with 10 being highly intense, what number would you give the intensity of the feelings that you have around this experience? And write that down as well. Okay. So now I'm going to walk through how we actually do the tapping. And we always start with a setup statement, which is the side of the hand. We're going to start tapping on the side of the hand, just below the little finger. And while we're tapping, you can tap with 2 or 3 fingers. You can tap with either hand, whatever's comfortable for you. And when you're tapping on the side of your hand, you're doing your setup statement. The setup statement always begins with even though, and then you state your problem. And then you end it in a way that is basically acknowledging this is the truth right now, and you accept that. And you can even add in a little bit like, and I deserve better, or that you're willing to let this go, or you're willing to forgive yourself as best you can. So, for example, with Kristen's experience that she brought up for us, we would tap on the side of the hand and say, excuse me, even though I feel like I did do something wrong whenever my customer has customer service issues, even though I know I didn't do anything wrong, I deeply love and completely accept myself. So that last statement, I deeply love and completely accept myself, is the one I typically use, but there are lots of other ways to say that, such as I'm open to coming to peace around this, or I accept how I feel. It's just like I said, it's just a way to kind of acknowledge this is the truth of the matter right now. So that's the only time where you tap on the side of your hand, and then you start doing the tapping on other parts of the body. And the reason you walk through first what you feel and what comes up for you when you think about the situation is because this is how you know what to say when you're tapping. So, for example, with Kristen's thing, you would say all this, you might say all this shame that I feel in my stomach, etc. So, but let me walk you through the tapping points. I was trained, not everyone starts at the top of the head, but I was trained to start at the top of the head. And then we go to the eyebrow point, which is on the eyebrow next to the nose. And then the side of the eye, which is the bone right on the side of the eye, under the eye, under the nose, and the crease of the chin. You can see Amy is using both hands on some points, like the collarbone point. You can use both hands if that's comfortable for you too. So then from the chin to the collarbone, and then I go to the bottom of the ribs. Not all practitioners use that. And then under the arm, which is 3 to 4 inches below your armpit. And then I go to the top of the wrist, which is just below the joint with the hand. So it's the top part, and then you turn it over, and the bottom part, and then you start at the top of the head again. And so, and you just keep doing that. So how long do you tap? You basically tap until you feel like you have thoroughly covered the issue. And while you're tapping, other things will come up for you. You'll have sudden realizations, or you'll be like, of what might actually be more true than the belief that you had created. You might have more realizations of how you're feeling. Like once you tap through the anger, you might figure out that you are hurt or ashamed or something like that. So as you tap, things will come up. And so you just keep tapping until you feel like you've really covered the situation, and maybe you even feel a shift, or maybe you just run out of things to say. So, and then once you've really covered the situation, you can move into what's called a reframe. And the reframe is just giving your brain ideas on how you might be able to see the situation from a different perspective. So, like my mom and the pile of dirt, one thing I could say, and using the word maybe is very helpful, because I could say while I'm tapping, I could say, maybe my mom needed to feel good about herself. I could say my mom didn't realize the impact she was having on me at that time. I could say, just because I couldn't sweep up a big pile of dirt on my grandma's floor doesn't mean that I'm incompetent. Maybe I needed to practice more. So it's just a way to like reframe how you see the situation. So once you've done that, you can stop tapping and then you check in, and you're going to check in using that 0 to 10 scale again. And let's say you started with an 8, and then the next time you stop tapping and you check in, maybe you're down to a 4. So at that point, you're going to ask yourself, what do I feel now? What do I still feel? What's contributing to this 4? And you'll do the same thing again. And you'll just write down what it is that you feel, do the tapping through that process. And then you basically can tap until you get down to a 0. And what that means is that when you're at a 0, it means that you don't have an emotional attachment to that event anymore. And the event happened, you just don't care anymore. You just don't give it the meaning that you had given it. Okay, so is there any questions at this point? Because we're going to do some tapping. Any questions or anything at this point? Let me see, yes, I think I covered it all. So what we're going to do, so we can do it a couple of ways, where we just all go on mute and we all do tapping, and I'll just kind of keep you going on the tapping points. Or Kristen, if you're willing, we could do tapping with you as an example. And then everyone would still tap along with us, because they would get what's called borrowed benefits. Even if that's not their specific situation, they will still get benefit from tapping along with you and going through your particular issue. So
I would like everybody to go from whatever number they're at and down. And I just believe in you guiding us through the process. So I think everybody should work on their item.
Okay. All right, then let's do that. I'm just trying to figure out, like, from a standpoint of, I just want to make sure everyone's issue that you have, that you did have a 0 to 10, like above 0, you had some number above 0, and that you do feel some level of intensity around the situation. Yes, so you can just nod your heads if yes. Yeah, okay, all right. So does anyone need help with their setup statement before we start?
Quick question.
Okay.
Okay, so with our setup statement, I'm saying, even though whatever the experience is, I deeply love myself. And then are we saying something like, I accept it, or I'm willing to do something different? Or what is that second piece to it?
Go ahead. Oh, the phrase I typically use is, I deeply love and completely accept myself. But you don't, and you don't have to worry if you don't actually feel that. You can still say it, but you can say, I'm open to coming to peace around this. You can say, I accept how I feel. and I'm willing to forgive myself as best I can. There's a number of ways that you can say it that feels, but for just for simplicity's sake today, why don't you just say, I deeply love and completely accept myself? By the way, when I send out the email for the replay, I will be including some documents, and I can include a list of other phrases that you can use. Okay, cool. All right, so let's start with the setup statement, tapping on the side of the hand. And go ahead and start with even though in your statement about your issue. Okay, let's go to the top of the head. And here you're just going through what you wrote on down in terms of how you feel about the situation. And one at a time, you're doing it one at a time. So like with Kristen's, you would be, I feel like I did something wrong. And then you would go to the eyebrow point. I know this started when I was a child, when I was scolded. And then the side of the eye and the next thing. And you're just walking through each thing that you wrote down. Under the eye. Under the nose. And the chin. The collarbone. Bottom of the ribs. You can see we're not saying really long statements. Under the arm. Top of the wrist. Bottom of the wrist. Let's go back to the top of the head. Top of the eye. Side of the eye. And by the way, you can say things like, I am so tired of this. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore. Under the eye. Under the nose. The crease of the chin. On the collarbone. Bottom of the ribs. Under the arm. Top of the wrist. And bottom of the wrist. So why don't we stop here, just because I just want to check in with everyone, but generally you, like I said earlier, you would just keep tapping until you felt some shift, until you were ready to stop tapping. So I wanted to check in here. Are you starting to feel a shift? Are you starting to feel a difference? Yeah? Okay. Did any of you get to the reframe part? Okay. You are, Amy, great. Okay, so let's do 2 more rounds and go ahead and keep tapping on the particular issue, the first round, and then the second round, let's get to the reframe where you start saying things like, maybe this. When things are associated with our parents and their parenting or lack thereof, it often helps to say things like, he was unaware of what he was doing. He didn't have a good role model for parenting himself. He had his own wounds. He was doing the best he could, even if it wasn't that great, just to start to show that, a lot of what they do isn't intentional to harm us or wound us. They're really clueless. They're unaware. They have no emotional intelligence. They had no parenting training. And some, it can help just to acknowledge that, and it can shift that pain from the wound, kind of by giving them a little grace, a little compassion, a little grace for where they were in their life at that time. Okay, so let's go ahead, and we don't need to start with a setup statement again. So we're just going to go ahead and start at the top of the head. And top of the eye. Side of the eye. Under the eye. Under the nose. Crease of the chin. And the collarbone. Bottom of the ribs. Under the arm. Top of the wrist. Bottom of the wrist. Now let's go into your reframe here. Go to the top of the head. What is something else that could be true about this situation than what you believed was true? Top of the eye. Side of the eye. Under the nose. Under the eye. Sorry about that. Under the nose. On the chin. And the collarbone. Bottom of the ribs. Under the arm. Top of the wrist. And bottom of the wrist. So let's go ahead and stop there. Now, when you're tapping, you don't have to stop at the end, at the bottom of the wrist. You can just stop whenever you're ready to stop. So the question now is, when you look at that situation now on the scale of 0 to 6, what is the intensity of your feelings now? So have they gone down? Oh, yes, Eileen.
My intensity went up to 10, from 6 to 10. I think I really got mad.
That happens.
Just to let you know.
That's excellent, Eileen. I'm happy about that. When the number goes up instead of down, what you're doing is you're uncovering how you really feel. When so many times we suppress or deny how we feel about something. For example, I don't know what your situation is, but if it's about your parents, we were not allowed to be mad at our parents when we were young. And so if we were mad at them, we suppressed it. And so if we're now tapping and going through the situation and finding out, wow, I'm really pissed off at them. And it means you feel safe now to feel that anger. And now you get to work on the anger. It's like I said earlier, it's the peeling back of the onion, or as Donkey Instruct says, it's the parfait, it's the different layers. And so you've uncovered kind of what you put on top of your true feelings. And now you get to work on those. And when doing some tapping on the anger will really help. So that's a great example. Thank you, Eileen. Appreciate it. Like I said, I'm excited for you. Okay, so Amy or Kristen or anyone want to talk about your where you're at?
Mine went down to 0.
Nice.
Wow.
It went down to 0 because it was like just really recognizing why that's a trigger and why I always go there, right? And recognizing that I was punished for something that I didn't do. And so when my customers have a service issue, it isn't anything that I've done. So it's kind of like that circle. But then in reframing, what came up for me and allowed it to go down to a 0 is recognizing when I'm working with my customers, you don't know what's going on for that customer and in their business. And when they have that service issue, how is that impacting their business? How do they look at it? What's coming up for them? And so it's just really allowing it to be in a state of grace to be able to resolve what's at hand. It went to a total 0.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's so great. That's going to make being in business so much easier, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else want to share?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Great.
So I started at a 6 with indulging in distractions when when working towards my goal feels hard. It feels hard in some way, like I'm getting triggered. My fear of failure is getting triggered. My fear of success is getting triggered, or my fear that I'm not enough. It's not going to be good enough, whatever it is. I have a million of them. So I get distracted a lot. But I'm reframing it because I'm actually glad that this is coming up for me because it's giving me clarity and the opportunity to work through it and actually, be able to become so much more resilient with these issues coming up again. My goal, and I started reframing it to be not only motivated and determined to reach my goal, but motivated and determined to surpass these fears. And every time I face them and continue to work through something, even when it feels hard, I'm building my resilience muscle, right? So
True.
Every single time I'm getting better. So that's kind of how I was reframing it. And it worked great.
That's great. Well, you started at a 6. What'd you go? Did it go down?
I'm at about a 1 or 2.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Anything else in terms of sharing or asking questions?
Can you just kind of speak to again just what the actual tapping does? Because that's actually plugging into something in our internal organs, right? I don't know.
Well, when you're tapping on meridian points. And so that is, as the Chinese have known for thousands of years, there are points in our body that are energy centers. And For example, I like using the bottom of the ribs because I've been told that that is associated with the liver meridian, and live is in the word liver. So liver is extremely important in our lives and our ability to thrive. So you are tapping on your, the energy system. And by the way, South Korean scientists found an energy body within physically, a physical energy body that maps to the meridian system. So modern science is starting to catch up with what's been known for thousands of years. So, like I said before, you are shifting and balancing the energy within your body. And the reason we talk out loud about the issue that we are dealing with, if you think about, can't think of the right word, but talk therapy, there's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. Some people will go to therapists for 20, 30 years, and still have some of the same issues. But with EFT tapping, it includes the talk therapy. It also includes somatic therapy because you are touching on your body, you're touching those energy points. You're using exposure therapy because you're talking out loud about the issue that you have. And as we all know, when we have issues, when we can speak them out loud, it takes the power away from them. So often it's the power of shame and hiding something as to why we can't overcome it. But when we speak it out loud, sometimes it sounds ridiculous. Like, really, I believed that this whole time? I can't believe that. And then also with the acupuncture and the acupressure points, it's just to me, it's much more effective and faster to deal with issues like these than the traditional talk therapy. And then somehow, and honestly, I don't know the scientific or mechanical way that it works to help the limbic system, which is where we store our memories and our feelings, and where our the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response is generated from. So it calms that portion of the brain down and reminds and lets the body know that you're not in danger anymore, because that's what your brain's trying to do whenever it has a limiting belief or it makes you afraid. Like if you were bit by a black dog 30 years ago and you see a black dog, when your body gets all afraid, all of a sudden it can be the nicest black dog you can ever see, but your brain's going to go danger, 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 because you were once bit by a black dog. And so it's trying to keep you safe, and it's just telling your brain, you don't need to keep me safe from that anymore. I'm safe. We can go on with our lives, kind of thing. So that's what it's doing. It's just unhooking those memories from what you came to believe or how you felt about a certain situation. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
yes.
Light fright. No, wait. Light fright. Wait. I was saying light fright. Fight. I can't get the word out. Freeze. And what was the fourth one you said?
Fawn. FAWN. And that is people pleasing.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else, Amy? Anything that
One other item that came to me when you talked about the touching and meridians and whatnot, I'm familiar with our various chakras or energy portions in our body. So what made sense for me when you explained that was the reason why my issue is in my tummy is because that's the chakra or the energy center where we are active, where we perform. So thank you. That helped as to why my tummy gets in knots when that comes up, because that's our energy center of action. And if you don't feel empowered, that's why your tummy is bothering you. So thank you.
That's a really good insight. And that's why it's also helpful why you might want to say where you store your where you feel the emotions in your body. Like you said, if you felt it in your chest, it could probably deal with the heart chakra. If it's in your neck or your throat, then it's that throat chakra. So many women, especially, have blocks in their throat chakra where they don't feel like safe to express themselves authentically or, their opinions or beliefs. And so a lot of times it can be there. So that's a really good point and a great example.
And I'd like to add, Kristen, that you were feeling it in your tummy. And with each chakra, there is a light and a shadow. And for the solar plexus, the light is empowerment and moving forward, and the shadow is shame, which I believe you said you were feeling.
Did. Thank
Mhm.
you. Wow.
So we have to work through the shadows in order to feel the light.
Yes, makes sense. Thank you.
And just to go even deeper, like we're really going deep here, but on the physical issues that we talked about earlier, you can also look at like the metaphysical reasons for a pain or disease in a certain area of the body. Like I had a client last week, was it just last week, who was having pain in his knee. And the knee metaphysically has to do with moving forward. It's how you get moved forward is your knee propels you forward, your knee and your ankle and your foot. And so when we looked at the issue that he was having, this pain in his knee, and we tapped through where he was feeling disempowered and unable to move forward, then, you can expect then that the pain in the knee would go away. I did that with somebody who had a sprained ankle, and we tapped on not being able to move forward. And, at first she couldn't even move her foot. And by the end of the tapping, she was like, oh, look at me. She was going like that with her foot, of course. So that's another thing. If you're having headaches or you're having stomach issues or something like that, then you can also often look at the metaphysical reasons underlying that and tap on it. So we're right at the hour. Apologize again about the Zoom issues. Someday I'll get that taken care of. I'm going to tap on it, of course, first. But yeah, unless there's any last minute, any final questions, comments, then I'll let you guys.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I mean, one of the reasons why we did this is one of my customers. And you said that you love to work with women in business. So can you tell us just a little bit about how that works if people want to move further?
Yes, thank you so much for asking, Kristen. I always forget that part of it. I'm just so excited to talk about it, and that I forget, oh yeah, I should tell people. Yes, if you want to work with me, we do on Zoom, and it's usually 1 hour a week. And I have a 6-week package. And then I also have an online course on procrastination, but if the business coaching piece of it, in which I incorporate EFT tapping and tarot card readings, if people are interested in that, then like I said, then we just do that on Zoom. So if you want more information on that, you can just email me at lisa@tappingintoyourtrueself.com, or my website is tappingintoyourtrueself.com. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that.
Thank you. This was amazing, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
You're awesome, Lisa.
Thanks.